Hi, welcome to Live United. My name is Karen Knapp, CEO, United Way of St. Lucie County. The United Way campaign is ongoing in the workplace and there in our residential communities. Your dollars, when you give to United Way, stay right here in St. Lucie County to help people improve their lives. We have one of our funded agencies here today to talk a little bit about what the United Way dollars are doing and how their agency is helping the community. Welcome, Tony.
Thank
Early
you.
Learning Coalition.
Yes.
Years ago, I was on the Early Learning Coalition, I believe when I was on the school board, and I saw all the wonderful things you were doing then, and as the years have gone on, I see that you have even more and more wonderful things happening. And before we get into your mission and your vision and all your other programs, you have an event coming up. Let's talk about that.
Yes, so we have our 11th annual Free Family Fun Fair, and it will be at the Lawnwood Stadium in Fort Pierce. And we're so excited. We've, like I said, it's the 11th year. We have Fort Pierce Central Junior ROTC presenting colors and the flag, and we have Bush Wildlife doing a presentation. The Sheriff's Department, their canine unit, will be doing a presentation.
That's always fun.
So yes, yeah. So it's exciting to see the dogs in action, and the children really enjoy that. Then we'll also have childcare providers that will be organizing their booth and decorating their booth in the theme of a story that they'll read to the children. So they'll have activities related to that story, and we call it storybook stations. And then we'll also have vendors that will be there, and other nonprofit agencies funded by United Way and other entities within our community, offering information and activities for the parents and children to be engaged with each other, and really just a great morning, mid-afternoon event, for parents and children. So it will run from 11 to 2 on Saturday, April 1st. No fooling. So, and we're just really looking forward to it. The Sheriff's Department will also be doing their bike rodeo and fitting children for a free helmet if the child needs one. And every child will leave with an age-appropriate book as well. So
that's always
literacy.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of promoting literacy, every time I go to a meeting in St. Lucie County, they're all talking about, let's encourage reading, especially, of course, with the very young. And in your case, that's so important, and you know how important it is. We're going to talk about some of the programs that you have that do that exact thing. Let's talk about the mission of Early Learning Coalition.
Yeah, our mission is to make sure that children have a strong foundation to lead them to be productive citizens in our community. So it's really about a quality early child education experience for the children. So because the brain development is crucial. In their first 5 years, 80% of the brain is developed. So we want to make sure that we're getting the children the tools and activities to create, that learning environment for them.
Yeah, that's so important. I have a number of grandkids, and I realize that, and many of them are in daycare, what we call daycare, but they are hopefully learning early in those facilities. You have many programs that you're offering.
Yes, we have probably the most popular one, or most well known, is our VPK, or Voluntary Pre-Kindergarten Program, and that's a free program for all 4-year-olds that are residents of the state of Florida. Then we have our School Readiness Program, which is an actual subsidized program for families that can't afford to pay for childcare. We also offer a childcare resource and referral component that offers information to the community. And then most recently, about a year ago, we started a Jumpstart literacy pilot working with 2- and 3-year-olds, and that was actually put into state legislation by our very own Representative Larry Lee Jr.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and he's done a wonderful job so far,
Yeah.
and we really appreciate his support for that program. Let's talk a little bit about VPK. Many people out there see signs, VPK offered here. Let's talk about how important that is in your part in that program.
Yeah, sure. So with VPK, every child that wants to, or family that wants to participate, have their child participate in a VPK program, must go through an early learning coalition to register. So if they're, now the nuance is if they are going to be attending a child care center, a VPK program in St. Lucie County, then they would need to register through the Early Learning Coalition of St. Lucie County. Even if they live in a different county, like say a surrounding county like Indian River. If the child is going to be attending a VPK program in St. Lucie, they would register with us, as opposed to where they live. So,
And when is the right time to register your child?
basically, registration opens up on January 1 of every year for the following school year.
Okay.
But there are programs that are run throughout the year. So the most common is a traditional school year program that runs from mid-August to end of May, mid-June, and generally follows the school district calendar. But those can be in a public school site, or it could be in a private child care provider. And then there are also summer programs that run for roughly a 10-week program, or 10 weeks within that 12 weeks or so that the children are off from school.
At what age can a child begin, the services of a VPK program?
So they have to be 4 on or before September 1st to enter into a VPK program for that school year. And that's pretty much how it's been for the last 11 years, or about 9 years of the 11 years that the VPK program has been around. But more recently, legislation changed that, so to accommodate those families that are concerned maybe that their child would not be ready to enter kindergarten, and they may want to hold their child back from entering kindergarten. So they now have the ability, if a child is, and this sometimes gets confusing, so if anyone out there has any questions, they can by all means call our office and we can clarify it. So I hope I'm going to get it correct here. But I believe it's from February 2nd through September 1st. If they've had their birthday within that time frame, so they've turned 4 from February 2nd to September 1st, they could actually opt to wait till the following school year to enter a VPK program. But families are only entitled to a VPK program once. So if they put their child into a VPK program that year that they turn 4, on or before September 1st, and then for whatever reason they recognize that maybe the child has some developmental delays, or that they're going to hold them back from entering kindergarten that following year, they would not be able to receive the funding for a second year of VPK. So it is only 1 year of eligibility.
Let's talk about the difference between VPK, and I know that's not on your list, but VPK and regular daycare. When a parent is looking for a place for their child as they work, what's the difference between putting them in a daycare or putting them in a VPK program?
Okay, so the child care programs have the ability to offer a VPK program.
But they don't all.
But they don't all, that's correct. So there are approximately 70 providers that we contract with for VPK services, as opposed to over 100 that we contract for school readiness services.
Okay.
So, and I can talk a little bit more about that, but with VPK, and there are always some nuances to this, but the general most popular program is the school year program, and that would follow a 3-hour day. Most child care centers offer a 9 to noon program. So VPK pays for, or the coalition pays the child care provider for those 3 hours of VPK only. So if the family needed what we call wraparound services, that their child would need care either before and or after the VPK program, that would be the responsibility of the parents to pay for that portion of the day for their child. But the VPK program itself is a totally free program, so parents should never, ever have to pay for anything related to that 3-hour program, or if it's a summer program, it's generally a 6-hour day. And there are some of our private childcare providers do offer a 6-hour VPK day for half of a school year. So, and some also offer an afternoon program, say 1 to 4. So there are options out there for families that would fit their schedule.
The activities, though, between just a regular daycare, you know, a daycare outside your perimeters, you know, and the VPK and those that you are contracting with and have to fall under your standards. What's the difference in the activities? Why is it so? Why is it an advantage to a parent if they were to enter the VPK program, your VPK program, rather than a regular daycare?
Right, sure. So with the VPK program, they are required to have a lesson plan, and then we have a team from our program department. We call them resource specialists. They go out to the child care centers. They review those lesson plans to make sure that they do have components of quality and that they're meeting the standards. And then they also offer technical assistance to the teachers if they need any assistance with that, or so we're really working with the child care centers and giving their teachers structure and giving them resources and other types of trainings to really improve their skills when working with the children.
Great. You'd mentioned the Jump Start literacy program.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that program.
So with Jump Start, that is actually focusing on 2- and 3-year-olds that live in a subsidized housing unit. So we're currently partnered with the Fort Pierce Housing Authority. So we're working with their residents that have 2- and 3-year-old children. And what we do is we have a family support coordinator that goes actually into their homes and works with the parents and the children for roughly a 30-minute session, because when you're talking about 2- and 3-year-olds, you can't go much longer than 30 minutes, and
Right.
keep their attention. So, so we're really focusing at that age group around word recognition and language development. It's not as much, even though literacy is part of the title of the program, the Jumpstart Literacy, at that age, to help develop, give them a strong foundation for them to develop their literacy skills when they do actually start reading. It's about that word recognition and just using vocabulary, because there are studies out there that show that there's a 30 million word gap between families that are impoverished to those that are of middle or upper class economic status.
Right. What an advantage it is. I'm sure that you're starting now, but I'm sure you'll have a long waiting list. Do you know how many kids are really eligible for this type of program?
Yep. So we've reached out. We were fortunate with, with the Housing Authority, that they have that type of data with their families, so they know the families that have 2- and 3-year-olds. Currently, we have 26 children in the program, and we've had this program just about a year, but that's technically when we signed our contract with the state to offer these services. But we've really only had children in the program because of startup time since the very end of June, beginning of July. So it's really only been about 8 months or so that we've had children in the program. And of course, we started with just a few, and we've worked our way up to 26. And part of with working with this demographic, it's really about building a level of trust with the parents, because we're asking them to allow one of our workers to go into their home. So it's not just about teaching the parents or the child some skills, it's really about building those relationships with the families. And we've actually been fortunate with developing those relationships that we've been able to make some referrals to the Head Start program. We've been able to make referrals to the Fiddlers program and children with some learning disabilities and Easter seals and such. So we've really, our early steps, I should say, we've really made some connections there for some people that, had they not been involved in this program, we're not sure that they would have ever received those additional services on top of what the program offers.
Right, right. It's so important. Do you have any services, or do you see in the future any services offered to the parents? Because the parents are such a, important part.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The most important part of a child's education.
Yeah.
And so if you can get the parent on board and give the parent resources to support their child throughout their education career, then, it's a win-win.
Right.
Do you see that there's might possibly be a parent component to the program?
There
someday?
definitely is a parent component,
Okay.
because at that age, it's really about, or for that age of child, it's really about the parents having communication with their children and not just using some of the basic words that they always use. It's really about having the parents understand that they have to enrich their vocabulary to help enrich their child's vocabulary. So we currently use an application that's called a phone app, smart app. It's called Ready Rosie. And there's another application. We actually have to pay for that. And part of the reason we pay for that particular application is because it can track how many times the parent has utilized that information. So, for our funding purposes, we want to make sure that the families are using it. But what it does is when you sign up, you put the child's information so they know the age. And then what it does is it sends a daily text or a reminder message to you of an activity for you to do with your child. So that is a daily reminder or enrichment activity that the parent can do with the child to engage the child and teach them some type of vocabulary or literacy skills. Now there is a free application that's out there called Vroom, VROOM, and so anyone can sign up for that, and it's absolutely free and does pretty much the same thing. It just doesn't have that tracking component that we need for our funding and for this particular pilot program. So it's just as good, and I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that so any listeners that are out there, they can put their child's information in, and it will send them age-appropriate activities to do with the child to help to develop their language and literacy.
Do you provide that more than in one language? Do you provide it Spanish and Creole, or is it just in English?
It's just in English that we provide.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, the United Way of St. Lucie County and Early Learning Coalition, we've been partners for many years. Many years.
Yeah. I think since inception, possibly.
You can't set community goals, and you can't do what you need to do unless you have partnerships, unless you collaborate with other entities, other agencies, with government, with business. Let's talk about some of the partnerships you have in our community and how important it is to your programs.
Yes. Yep. So the perfect example that I just love talking about is this Jumpstart program that we have, because Representative Lee's vision was to work with 2- and 3-year-olds, but actually to have a continuum for these children all the way through 3rd grade, because we understand the importance of a child reading on 3rd grade level at 3rd grade. It's really the basis, for if there'll be future concerns or challenges that the child may have if they're not reading on that level by 3rd grade. So, so with that, we've forged partnerships with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So they actually, when the children are in our program, they're 2 and 3, when they come out of this program and enter into a VPK program, Big Brothers Big Sisters then with their AmeriCorps volunteers actually will mentor and tutor the children. And then those children will also, or big brothers, big sisters, mentors, will also carry into the public school system as well. So we partner with the public school system, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Housing Authority. There's those entities that we partner with. But with regards to other programs that we have, we're very tied to the school district. And what I love about our school district, compared to some unfortunate stories that I've heard of other school districts, is that ours really recognize that education does not start in kindergarten. It starts at birth. And the importance of early education to prepare our children for entering the public school system is huge. So we have a very strong relationship with them. United Way has helped us, with funding for many years around our local match to be able to serve the children, and also through health initiatives with our oral health program. And we have had a joint partnership with HANDS, the HANDS Clinic, which just recently heard, I think they're going under VIM, Volunteers in Medicine. But so for those listeners that may have heard of VIM or VIM and HANDS, they're one and the same. But they have a dental hygienist that goes out and actually goes to our child care centers that are involved in the program and does an oral screening on the children and identifies if there are any concerns with cavities and such, and then they get those addressed. So if the families have insurance, then they encourage the families to use their insurance and go to a dentist that can assist them. And if they don't have insurance, then in part we use some funding from United Way to help cover those costs, and we partner with a couple of dentists that will charge a reduced amount so that those children can get the care that they need. When we first started this, it was probably about 8-9 years ago
it's been a
now,
while.
I think. There was an issue with bottle rot in children. And so basically their baby teeth were rotting because of parents maybe putting sugary drinks in their bottles, and then the child falls asleep with the bottle in their mouth, and maybe they're just not good about brushing their teeth because they're younger. But this program has really seen huge strides in what we've accomplished and how children with dental issues, those issues have really diminished over the years. And that's a program that HANDS actually goes into the school district as well, and deals with children in higher grades, and it's just amazing the results that we've seen, with
Yeah,
that
we're very
program.
proud of that. United Way, as you just said, funds that program and gives you a certain amount so that you can support your clients, the children in your services as well, and that's so important. And the education of a child is to make sure they're healthy, and oral health is extremely important. And I also want to mention Children's Services Council, because if there's something that that's going on with kids, or if there's a gap in services, or if there's a need, Children's Services of St. Lucie County is there, and we're happy to be partnering with them to fund that program. And you guys do a terrific job, and it's so important not only to get to the very young in the schools, but also, as you said, the very young before they get into school, the early learning. But we also educate parents as well, I know, in that program. So it's not just about educating the child to brush their teeth, but it's also the parents and how, what they can do, and the services that are available to them so the kids can continue to have a healthy smile.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's real important.
And the other piece of that as well is the child care centers that are participating in that program, they have all become sugar-free centers as well. Or I should say sugar-free or very reduced sugar. So an example of that is, a lot of times with different birthdays, the parents want to bring cupcakes or cake or, you know, those types of sugary treats for the children. And so what a lot of our centers that are participating have done is they've asked either they celebrate once a month all the birthdays within that month with one cake or set of cupcakes, or they will do something where it's fruit or vegetables or healthier snacks, you know, for the children. So our child care providers, the owners and directors of those centers, have really taken the initiative by the horns as well, and decided that they want to make a difference, you know, with that.
We have a few minutes left. What should a parent look for, or a caregiver or a guardian look for when they are looking for child care services?
So it's really important to understand what is going on in the center itself, and we actually have guides that we can give families. So for free, we can email them, you know, send them in the mail, what have you. But it's really about if there's teacher-child interaction, engagement, if the teacher is at the eye level of the children, not necessarily just always standing and looking down, but they're down on the floor interacting with the child. Is it clean, and is it safe? And really the engagement piece is probably the most critical, but there's not necessarily a right center or a wrong center for everyone as a base or a commonality. It's really about what center works best for your child, because parents know their child the best. And just because a center may have the flashy new technology does not necessarily mean that they have that engagement piece. So you really have to make sure that you're understanding what the environment is and how your child best fits into that environment.
So your pamphlet would give them the questions to ask or things to look for,
Yes.
and it's really good for them to shop around to, you know, you got to go to at least one or two or three and ask questions. They can call Early Learning Coalition, and, you know, they can, you know, if their child has special needs, you might be able to direct them.
Yes.
So there are resources out there for parents, and hopefully they'll go to your website.
Yes.
And it should be, yep, there it is on the screen.
Yep. Good.
And but we want to thank you and for all that you do and your staff, because I know you've got a great group of people there, Early Learning Coalition, a
Yep.
great board.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And we want to thank our viewing audience for listening. And we hope if you want to become involved, you'll either call Early Learning Coalition or call United Way. Ask for Karen Knapp. I'll talk to you to see how you can become more involved in your community as we work to improve the lives of all of our citizens in St. Lucie County. Thanks for joining us.